Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about one of the biggest problems Russia is facing in its war with Ukraine, the collapse of its supply chain to Crimea. This has been called a logistics nightmare, and for good reason. Supplies are the lifeline of any army, and when those lines start to break, everything begins to fall apart. Let's go step by step to understand how this happened, why it matters, and what it means for the future of the conflict. When Russia first annexed Crimea in 2014, it immediately began building a system to keep the peninsula connected to the mainland. The goal was simple: to make sure fuel, ammunition, food, and troops could move easily. The biggest project in that effort was the Crimean Bridge, also known as the Kerch Bridge. It connected Russia directly to Crimea and became both a symbol of control and a crucial logistics route. Trains and trucks carried almost everything across that bridge. For years, it seemed like a permanent solution. But every system has weak points. The bridge and surrounding routes were Russia's main arteries, meaning that if they were ever damaged, supply would be hit hard. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Crimea became a major military base. Supplies for operations in the south all moved through it. Ukraine quickly realized that if it could choke those routes, it could weaken Russia's entire southern front. What followed was a campaign of targeted strikes, drone attacks, and sabotage that slowly started to break the flow. One of the biggest shocks came in October 2022, when an explosion severely damaged the Crimean Bridge. The attack destroyed parts of the road section and temporarily halted rail traffic. For Russia, this wasn't just physical damage, it was psychological. The one structure that connected the Russian mainland to Crimea had been proven vulnerable. Repairs took months, but even after they were finished, the bridge remained under threat. Every new Ukrainian drone or missile strike reminded Russia that the bridge could be hit again at any time. After that, Russia tried to use ferries and alternate routes to keep supplies moving. Ships began transporting fuel, food, and ammunition across the Kerch Strait, but ferries are slower, less efficient, and easier to attack. Ukrainian naval drones soon started targeting those as well. In several attacks, ferries and oil tankers were destroyed, cutting another lifeline. What had once been a steady, protected stream of supplies became a dangerous and unpredictable journey. This had an immediate impact on life in Crimea. Civilian fuel shortages began appearing in late 2024 and 2025. Gas stations were rationing fuel, limiting how much people could buy. Prices were frozen, and reports of long lines spread. When civilians start running short, you can be sure the military is facing even worse problems. Armored vehicles, trucks, and supply convoys all rely on steady fuel. Without it, movement slows, operations pause, and readiness drops. Inside the Russian command, this situation forced tough choices. Supplies had to be divided between the front lines in southern Ukraine and the forces stationed in Crimea. When attacks increased on depots and rail lines, some shipments had to be rerouted through occupied parts of Ukraine, adding hundreds of kilometers to the journey. Every extra kilometer meant more fuel burned, more exposure to attacks, and more time lost. The collapse of a logistics chain doesn't happen overnight. It happens when multiple small failures build up until the system can't recover. First, the bridge damage cut direct access. Then ferry routes became unsafe. Then fuel depots were hit. Then trucks couldn't move fast enough. Each of these issues on its own could be managed, but together they created a domino effect. Soon Russia found itself facing the nightmare of having troops on the ground who couldn't be supplied efficiently. To make things worse, Ukraine didn't just stop at bridges and ferries. Its drone campaign extended deep into Russian-held territory. Strikes hit rail lines, ammunition dumps, and warehouses that stored critical supplies. Every explosion meant more delays and losses. Russia tried to compensate by stockpiling supplies inside Crimea, but the peninsula's limited space and exposure made that risky. Any large depot could become a target. All of this forced Russia to change its logistics strategy. Instead of relying on big shipments, it began moving smaller amounts more often, trying to hide movements and spread out targets. That helped a bit, but also reduced efficiency. Imagine trying to feed an army by delivering small parcels instead of truckloads. It's slower, costs more, and risks running dry before the next delivery arrives. This shift also increased wear on vehicles, requiring more maintenance and spare parts, things that were themselves in short supply. At the same time, weather and geography played their part. Crimea's position as a peninsula makes it both strategic and vulnerable. There are only a few ways in and out, and every one of them can be watched or attacked. When bad weather hits the Black Sea, ferry operations slow down or stop completely. During those pauses, supplies pile up on the mainland side, waiting for a safe moment to cross. This adds to the delays and creates logistical chaos. Another problem is manpower. Russian logistics units were never designed for long, exposed operations under constant attack. Many of the best trained units were reassigned to fight at the front, leaving supply chains under the control of smaller, less experienced crews. That led to mismanagement, lost cargo, and poor coordination between rail, road, and sea transport. Corruption also played a role. Reports emerged of officials inflating numbers, diverting fuel, and cutting corners to hide shortages. When systems are already strained, corruption makes everything worse. As the months went on, the effects spread beyond Crimea. The Black Sea Fleet, based in Sevastopol, began facing fuel and ammunition shortages as well. Some of its ships were relocated farther east to Novorossiysk for safety, reducing Russia's naval presence near Ukraine. This shift weakened Russia's ability to launch missile attacks from the sea and gave Ukraine more room to operate its own naval drones. What started as a logistics issue slowly turned into a strategic disadvantage. Inside Crimea, the civilian economy began to suffer too. Factories that supported military logistics struggled to get materials. Food prices rose, and power supply became unstable due to damaged infrastructure. The population grew frustrated, and local authorities had to enforce rationing measures. For the Kremlin, maintaining control over Crimea was becoming more expensive every week, not only in military resources, but also in political stability. For Ukraine, this logistics breakdown is a major success. Without engaging in full-scale battles, it has managed to weaken Russia's grip by targeting the foundation that holds its operations together, supply. This is a modern warfare strategy. Don't always attack the soldiers. Attack the system that keeps them fed, armed, and moving. Every truck destroyed, every bridge damaged, every depot hit is a step closer to forcing the enemy to retreat or scale back. The bigger picture here is about what logistics mean in war. Armies don't collapse just because of fighting. They collapse when they can't eat, can't move, and can't communicate. Russia's logistics problems in Crimea are a reminder that even a large military can be crippled by weak infrastructure and overconfidence. The more reliant you are on one key route, the easier it is for your enemy to choke it. Now, Russia is trying to adapt. There are reports of new defensive measures around the bridge, with air defenses, smoke screens, and naval patrols. Engineers are working to repair and reinforce key infrastructure, but the challenge remains. As long as Ukraine can hit those targets faster than Russia can rebuild, the problem will persist. Every time a truck convoy is delayed, a unit somewhere gets fewer supplies. Every time a ferry is hit, the backlog grows. Every time a bridge is damaged, Russia's control weakens. In the future, Russia may try to build more resilient systems, maybe additional bridges, undersea tunnels, or alternate ferry networks. But these are long-term projects that require peace and stability to complete. In wartime, constant strikes make construction risky and expensive. The more money Russia spends on repairs and rerouting, the less it can spend on its frontline operations. From a strategic viewpoint, Crimea's isolation changes the balance of power. If Russia can't reliably supply its forces there, its ability to use Crimea as a base for operations against southern Ukraine diminishes. This could eventually force Russia to reconsider how it positions its troops or even to scale down its military footprint on the peninsula. Losing logistical stability doesn't mean losing territory immediately, but it makes holding that territory much harder. For Ukraine, maintaining pressure on Russian logistics is key. Every disruption not only hurts the enemy's supply, but also boosts morale on the Ukrainian side. It shows that no matter how strong or fortified the opponent is, they have weak points. The combination of drones, long-range missiles, and intelligence coordination has made Ukraine extremely effective at exploiting those vulnerabilities. This entire situation offers a clear lesson for military planners everywhere. No matter how powerful your army is, you can't ignore logistics. Tanks and missiles don't matter if you can't get fuel or food to the front. Bridges, roads, and depots may seem like background details, but they're what keep an army alive. Once those links start breaking, even the biggest forces can find themselves in crisis. Right now, Russia's logistics to Crimea remain fragile. The bridge, though repaired, is constantly under threat. The ferries are vulnerable, the ports have been damaged. The depots are exposed. The trucks are running out of fuel. The civilians are feeling the shortages. And the soldiers at the front are waiting longer for their supplies. Each of these issues adds up to the nightmare we're seeing now. A slow but steady collapse of the system meant to keep Crimea supplied. The question now is whether Russia can stabilize the situation, or if the damage has already gone too far. If the current trend continues, the cost of holding Crimea may outweigh the benefits, forcing strategic changes. But regardless of how this plays out, the situation stands as a clear reminder that logistics are not just background support, they're the backbone of war itself. And that's the story of how Russia's supply chain to Crimea turned into a logistical nightmare, one attack and one mistake at a time. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more updates. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this explanation helpful.